Okay, folks, let's get real. Americans, we love our country. We've got freedom, we've got fries, we've got Beyonce. We're living the dream, right? But here's the thing. Sometimes it feels like we're stuck in our own little bubble, blissfully unaware of what's happening beyond our borders. And no, I'm not talking about Canada. I'm talking about the whole wide world out there with its different cultures, languages, and, dare I say it, even better snacks. Now, before you start chanting USA, let me clarify, this isn't about bashing America. This is about recognizing that we've got a bit of a blind spot when it comes to global affairs. We might be able to point to Paris on a map. Thanks, Emily in Paris. But ask us about the political climate in Argentina, and we're all like, Argentina? Isn't that in Europe? Spoiler alert, it's not. The truth is, many Americans are shockingly unaware of what's happening outside their own backyard. We're talking basic geography, international relations, even current events. And this lack of awareness, it's not a good look. It's like showing up to a potluck with a half-eaten bag of chips and wondering why everyone else brought their A game. So why is it that Americans seem to know so little about the rest of the world? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to take a deep dive into the reasons behind our collective case of global ignorance. One reason is our education system. While we do learn about world history and geography, the focus is often on American history and geography. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that our knowledge of other countries can be somewhat limited. Another factor is our media consumption. Many of us get our news from local sources that prioritize domestic issues over international ones. This can create a skewed perception of what's important in the world. Social media algorithms also play a role. They tend to show us content that aligns with our interests and beliefs, which can create an echo chamber effect. We end up seeing more of what we already know and less of what we don't. Travel, or the lack thereof, is another contributing factor. While some Americans do travel abroad, many do not. Experiencing other cultures firsthand can be eye-opening and can significantly broaden one's perspective. Cultural exposure is crucial. The more we learn about and interact with people from different backgrounds, the more we understand that the world is a diverse and complex place. So, what can we do to become more globally aware? For starters, we can make a conscious effort to learn about other countries and cultures. This could be through reading books, watching documentaries, or even attending cultural events in our own communities. Learning a new language can also be incredibly beneficial. It not only helps in understanding another culture, but also opens up new ways of thinking and seeing the world. Volunteering for international organizations or causes can also provide valuable insights into global issues and foster a sense of global citizenship. Ultimately, becoming more globally aware is about expanding our horizons and recognizing that we're part of a much larger world. It's about understanding that while we may love our country, there's so much more out there to explore and appreciate. So let's step out of our bubble and embrace the richness and diversity of the world. After all, the more we know about each other, the better we can work together to create a brighter future for everyone. Let's start with the basics. Education. It's the foundation of our society, the bedrock upon which we build our future. But how solid is that foundation, really? Now, I'm not saying our teachers aren't rock stars. They are the unsung heroes, tirelessly working to shape young minds. They're battling overcrowded classrooms, standardized testing, and a myriad of other challenges that would make anyone's head spin. And let's not forget the ever-present threat of a rogue spitball. It's a jungle out there, folks. But when it comes to global education, we seem to be lagging behind. Our students are often left with a narrow view of the world. Our textbooks sometimes feel like they were written by a team of sleep-deprived pigeons. Outdated and out of touch, they fail to engage the modern student.
Think back to your high school history class. Remember those chapters on ancient civilizations, the ones that were supposed to enlighten us about the dawn of human society? Yeah, me neither. Those dusty old textbooks did little to spark our curiosity or imagination. And that's kind of the problem. If we can't remember what we learned, did we really learn it at all? We spend so much time dissecting the American Revolution. Don't get me wrong, it was important, that we barely have time to scratch the surface of other cultures and historical events. And geography is often treated as an afterthought, a subject that's only skimmed over. Don't even get me started. Many students can't even locate major countries on a map, let alone understand their significance. It's like that one distant cousin you see at family reunions, vaguely familiar, but you couldn't pick them out of a lineup. And that's a shame, because understanding geography is crucial in today's interconnected world.
We graduate high school knowing more about the Kardashians than the capitals of Africa. It's a glaring gap in our education system. And that's just embarrassing, people. How can we expect to be global citizens if we don't even know the basics about the world we live in? It's a wake-up call that we need to heed. Our education system needs a serious overhaul. Now, I get it. There's a lot to cover in school and something's gotta give. But what if we rethought our approach? What if we prioritized critical thinking and global awareness over rote memorization? What if we encouraged curiosity and a love for learning? Instead of cramming our brains full of facts about the War of 1812, maybe we should spend some time learning about the rest of the world, the one we actually share with billions of other people. Imagine the possibilities if we broadened our horizons. We could foster a generation of informed, empathetic, and engaged global citizens. And isn't that the ultimate goal of education? Okay, pop quiz, hotshot. Name 3 international news stories you've read this week. No Googling, time's up. If you struggled to come up with anything beyond Prince Harry wore beige again, you're not alone.
See, America's got this funny little habit of turning inwards, of focusing on all things American all the time. We're obsessed with our own celebrities, our own scandals, our own reality TV shows about people who eat bugs for a living. We're like that friend who constantly interrupts you to talk about their new shoes. Except our new shoes are usually just a slightly different flavor of Doritos.
And look, I get it. It's comforting to surround ourselves with the familiar, to revel in the glory of all things American. But this constant self-focus comes at a cost. It creates a bubble, an echo chamber where the rest of the world fades into the background noise. We become so caught up in our own little dramas that we forget there's a whole universe out there, full of different perspectives, different stories, different ways of life. Section 4, Red, White, and You News with an American accent. Let's talk news, shall we? The kind of news that shapes our understanding of the world, our perceptions, and even our daily conversations. Specifically, the kind of news that many Americans consume. It's a unique blend, a mix of local and national stories that often dominate our screens.
Now, I'm all for a good old-fashioned news cycle. But let's be honest, our media has a bit of an American accent. This isn't just about the way we speak, it's about the stories we prioritize. Our media landscape is saturated with stories about domestic politics, local crime, and the latest celebrity Twitter feuds. These stories are important, no doubt, but they often overshadow other significant events. We're bombarded with stories about domestic politics, local crime, and the latest celebrity Twitter feuds. It's a constant stream of information that keeps us hooked but also somewhat myopic. And the latest celebrity Twitter feuds, which, let's face it, can be entertaining, but are they really the most important news of the day? Meanwhile, international news often gets relegated to a 5-minute segment at the end of the broadcast, right before the weather report. It's almost an afterthought, a quick nod to the rest of the world. Right before the weather report, as if to say, here's what's happening elsewhere, but now back to what really matters.
It's like we're watching a movie with subtitles, but the subtitles are in a language we vaguely remember from high school French class. We get the gist, but the deeper meaning often escapes us. But the subtitles are in a language we vaguely remember from high school French class. We get the gist of it, maybe catch a few key words, but the nuances, the complexities, the sheer magnitude of what's happening beyond our borders, we get the gist of it, maybe catch a few key words, but the nuances, the complexities, the sheer magnitude of what's happening beyond our borders, maybe catch a few key words, but the nuances, the complexities, the sheer magnitude of what's happening beyond our borders, it all gets lost in translation. The sheer magnitude of what's happening beyond our borders? It all gets lost in translation. We miss out on understanding the full picture, the interconnectedness of global events. It all gets lost in translation. And this lack of comprehensive global coverage, it's not just bad for our brains, it's bad for our understanding of the world.
And this lack of comprehensive global coverage? It's not just bad for our brains, it's bad for our understanding of the world. It creates a distorted reality, one where America is the main character and everyone else is just a supporting player. It's not just bad for our brains, it's bad for our understanding of the world. It creates a distorted reality, one where America is the main character and everyone else is just a supporting player. It's bad for our understanding of the world. It creates a distorted reality, one where America is the main character and everyone else is just a supporting player. This skewed perspective limits our ability to empathize with others and understand global issues. It creates a distorted reality, one where America is the main character, and everyone else is just a supporting player. This skewed perspective limits our ability to empathize with others and understand global issues. One where America is the main character, and everyone else is just a supporting player. This skewed perspective limits our ability to empathize with others and understand global issues. And everyone else is just a supporting player. This skewed perspective limits our ability to empathize with others and understand global issues. We miss out on the richness of diverse perspectives and the complexity of global events.
But here's a newsflash. The world doesn't revolve around us. Spoiler alert, we're not the only ones. There are countless stories, cultures, and events happening all around the globe that deserve our attention. The world doesn't revolve around us. Spoiler alert, we're not the only ones. There are countless stories, cultures, and events happening all around the globe that deserve our attention. By broadening our news consumption, we can gain a more accurate and empathetic understanding of the world. Spoiler alert, we're not the only ones. There are countless stories, cultures, and events happening all around the globe that deserve our attention. By broadening our news consumption, we can gain a more accurate and empathetic understanding of the world. Let's make an effort to look beyond our borders and appreciate the richness of global perspectives. Section 5. Lost in translation, when worlds collide and we don't notice. So what happens when a nation of over 330 million people is woefully underinformed about the rest of the world? Well, it's not pretty.
We make uninformed decisions both in the voting booth and in our daily lives. We perpetuate stereotypes and misconceptions. We miss out on opportunities to connect with other cultures, to learn from different perspectives, to broaden our horizons beyond our own backyard.
Think about it. How can we have meaningful conversations about climate change if we don't understand its impact on other parts of the world? How can we address global poverty if we don't grasp the complexities of international development?
How can we be effective global citizens if we're stuck in our own little bubble, oblivious to the challenges and triumphs happening elsewhere? The consequences of our collective global ignorance are real, folks, and it's time we start paying attention.
Because the world is changing, whether we're watching or not, and the longer we remain oblivious, the further behind we'll